Have been murdered in the last 3 years. Others, believed to be on a hit list, are in fear of their lives. But who's been killing these men and why? Soria Samora and Ivan Okuda went in search of answers to a deadly mystery.
In the last 3 years, 12 men, all linked to each other, have died brutal deaths in Uganda. All were leaders of their community. All were Muslims. Many of the dead appeared on a so-called hit list. So far, no one has been convicted of these killings. In this film, I'll be trying to find out what might be behind this murder mystery. I am being joined by Ugandan journalist Ivan Okuda of the local paper, The Daily Monitor. We've come to a suburb on the outskirts of the capital city, Kampala, to meet Sheikh Haruna Kasangaki. He had been attacked at night by 3 gunmen just a few weeks earlier here at his home. He is one of many Muslim clerics in the country who are now assigned personal protection by the government. One of his guards fought off the assailants that fateful evening.
I had some footsteps outside. Then I waked up and he opened the small door of the gate. That's when he shot a bullet. Then even me, I responded by putting the muzzle, the gun, then I also shot at them.
Sheikh Kasangaki was inside with his family, including his newly born baby daughter.
I had gunshots outside. I tried to come from the bedroom. We were all panicking, but I told them, please, you don't go anywhere. We have been told to stay where we are. When I go in my bedroom, and I heard something, maybe it could be anything, maybe knocking somewhere. I could fear, thinking that maybe something is going to happen again. Maybe they have come back. So up to now, I still have that fear.
The identity of Sheikh Kasangaki's attackers is still unknown. Ivan and I have been digging into the basic facts of each case. Of the 12 killed since 2012, all but 2 were shot, usually in the evening, between 8 and 10 o'clock. The attackers arrived on motorcycles, kill with 2 to 5 shots, then disappear. Friends, family, and bystanders are usually left unscathed. The consistency of the crime signature seems to indicate a systematic plan. But who would want these Muslim leaders dead? Muslims are 12% of the Ugandan population, and some media reports suggested that disputes between religious groups lay behind the crimes.
Ivan, clearly there has been a serious split. I mean, there's a whole lot here that says about fresh feuds over management of the city mosque.
A key arrest has been that of Sheikh Yunus Kamoga, the leader of a Muslim sect called the Tabligh. He and 7 of his followers have been charged with 2 murders and the attempted murder of a 3rd sheikh in January. But they are fiercely contesting the charges. We went to meet Kamoga's lawyer, Fred Muwema.
For more than 6 months, they have sought to be given the evidence that implicates them, and this evidence has not been forthcoming. Many of the detainees have been tortured. I have seen evidence of the torture. One of the gentlemen has a deep scar on the head. There have been efforts which have failed to try and get Kamoga and his colleagues to confess, with a promise that if they confess, they'll be released. So for us, we believe that the conduct by the police is suggestive of a lack of a good case against our clients.
Fred believes his client is innocent, but we uncovered a startling piece of evidence. It concerns the final hours of one of his alleged victims, Sheikh Mustafa Bahiga. Bahiga's wife, Fatuma, helped take him to hospital.
He was there crying for his life. We told him that we wait, we will reach the hospital, but he told me that I can't reach the hospital. Then he started telling me that Ma, look after my children. I'm not going to reach the hospital. I know you're a strong woman. You look after them. That was the last word I heard from my husband.
So sorry.
It was when Mustafa Bahiga was alone with his sons during a temporary stop at a local hospital that he said something extraordinary. He apparently blamed the Tabligh leader, Sheikh Kamoga, for the attack on his life.
There are reports that he said Kamoga has killed me. Is that true?
He's in the hospital. One of the boys had him because the boys were there.
Sheikh Bahiga's dying declaration certainly makes Kamoga a suspect. But Kamoga's supporters have been offering a different theory. Bahiga's widow Fatuma showed us a newspaper article in which Kamoga's deputy, Sheikh Yahaya Mwanje, says an unpaid debt to property brokers could be behind the killing.
Those are lies. I was there. And even the brokers told me, because I met them some time back, and I asked them, why did you go to the newspapers, tell them that Kaji didn't pay you? They said, no, we have no problem with her.
Sheikh Bahiga was fatally wounded on this spot on December 28th last year, much in the same way as the others, at night by gunmen who escaped on a motorbike. The state accuses Sheikh Kamoga of killing him. Kamoga's supporters say no, the death was provoked by a property dispute. Sheikh Bahiga's widow disputes this, so we went to investigate. We tracked down a local councillor. He helped arrange the property deal and knew the brokers. He insisted they were properly paid and that they had no complaints about Sheikh Bahiga.
I am the one who joined the broker to Mr. Bahiga.
Right.
Because they're all my friends. They are my friends.
So the claim that a broker was chasing him for money to pay them is not true.
No, it's not true.
We also met the owner of a hardware store near Bahiga's home. If the newspaper account is accurate, she overheard Sheikh Bahiga having a heated argument, which he told her was with property brokers chasing him for money. But she too said that was wrong.
It's not true.
It's not true, because I even never heard him talking to those brokers. The man was a good man. I never had.
So was all this talk of property debts a ruse to divert attention from the man police had arrested, Sheikh Kamoga? We went to meet his deputy. Sheikh Mwanje was now the acting emir of the Tabligh sect since Kamoga's arrest in January for Mustafa Bahiga's murder.
We spoke to a lady mentioned in this article that runs the hardware shop. We spoke to the local leadership of that area, and they said the man had no debt.
The blockers themselves, they come to the Amir direct, demanding their money. And the Amir tried to get them together, Mustafa and the blockers.
So you stand by your remarks in the article?
Mm. Your leader is saying...
The Sheikh clearly wasn't willing to budge from his version of events, but he and the previous witnesses can't all be right. If the police are right and Kamoga was behind Bahiga's killing, why would he have wanted to kill one of his colleagues? We asked a close confidant of the murdered Sheikh Bahiga. He said there were deep rifts among the Ugandan Tabligh. Shortly after Bahiga's murder, Sheikh Jemba survived an attack on his own life.
I cannot say that, that I know who did it, but before the killing of our brother Mustafa Bahiga, there was stiff conflict and threat from that leader who is known as Yunus Kamoga with his group. I even asked one of our brother that, don't you think that these people are going to kill us?
Kamoga has been a controversial figure for over 30 years and fled Uganda at one point, though he took charge of his group again 6 years ago and soon clashed with his rivals.
Maybe Uganda now is invaded by, we can say, extremists. and it cannot be isolated from other countries like Somalia, where we have seen Muslims killing fellow Muslims. And the majority of the people killed were on our side, that is, the moderate side.
Then we discovered another clue. Many of Jembe's colleagues, including himself and Mustafa Bahiga, appeared on leaflets that were given out at a Tabligh mosque shortly before the recent killing started. The leaflets accused those featured of betraying Muslims by spying for the state or by financial corruption. Some see the leaflets as a hit list, and 3 of those on them have been attacked, 2 of them fatally. But other sheikhs have died too, and not all of them were part of this conflict between Tablighs in the capital city. One of the victims was even a Shia.
Many have been killed. Even the Shias have been killed. So is there any other hidden plans from somewhere coordinating these killings?
Clearly, that interview with him was very deep, and especially about the divide, the split, between Kamoga, between the different sects.
Clearly, the role of disunity is central in appreciating what is happening. But then in the eastern part of the country, some of those gunned down have nothing to do with the disunity in the Tabligh movement.
Our investigation had made some headway, but the mystery was far from solved. Ivan and I went back to the drawing board to make sure we hadn't missed any clues. Once again, the Tabligh stand out with 9 of the 12 dead. But why would sheikhs in the east, almost 200 kilometers away, be affected by the leadership wrangles in the capital city? It didn't make sense. That evening, we were joined by Haruna Kanabi, a Muslim journalist and executive secretary of Uganda's Independent Media Council. He has been following the murder cases closely and believes the Tabligh might be targeted by the government because the state thinks it is too radical.
For the last 10 years, we have seen systematic way of suppressing, intimidating what they call the Tabligh sect. The government established even a special desk under the Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force to follow up the Tabligh sect. We have seen in the past a number of people being arrested, held incommunicado, then eventually they appear in court with no evidence.
Is there a genuine reason for the government to be scared of this Tabligh sect?
When corruption thrives in the country, if I want the money, it becomes very easy that Uganda is under threat of Islamic fundamentalism. And what does that mean? We need money. Money to do what? To fight these radical Muslims.
A Human Rights Watch report in 2009 detailed regular use of illegal detention and torture by the Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force. The majority of the detainees were Muslim. We met a senior member of the Tabligh who was on the run from the police. Ayub Niende, the movement's Secretary General, said he was wanted on dubious charges. He said they were accusing him of being an agent of the Israeli Secret Service, Mossad.
The police came to my place. They had no arrest warrant. They had no search warrant. When they reached, my wife told them, what is the reason? What has he done? They said that I am a Mossad operative in Uganda, Mossad. I've never met anyone from Mossad. Now, this is what happens. They arrest you, they put any charge, and they throw you away, provided you not get bail in court. You rot in prison.
And what of the Tabligh leader, Sheikh Kamoga? He says he's stuck in prison as an innocent man. I managed to smuggle a secret camera inside Kampala's maximum security prison and to speak briefly to the man himself.
Our enemy, or Muslim enemy, they are doing this to divide us.
The government claims that Kamoga and his co-accused were working for a Ugandan Islamist terror group called the ADF, whose leader, Jamil Mukulu, was a former Tabligh.
Uganda is a target of terrorism. It's not news that there is ADF, and in fact we have got what we think are the key suspects in these murders.
The ADF had been based in the Congo for 15 years, but they had not had much impact in Uganda for almost 10. We managed to track down a former ADF leader. He said he'd talked to us, but wanted to remain anonymous. He doesn't think the ADF are behind the killings.
When some other people left ADF, they joined directly the government to fight against ADF. And those people, their names were listed, that those people should be killed because they betrayed the ADF. However, for sheikhs, ADF is more respectful to them than any other person.
If ADF gave these sort of orders for these people to be killed, what is it to prevent ADF carrying out the killing of these other sheikhs?
All these sheikhs, they had never been in conjunction to ADF, so I don't think the ADF could do it.
By now, we'd been given a police report into the murders. The report claims that most of the suspects were former ADF rebels who had returned to civilian life through a government-run amnesty program. But there is an official database of the people who came back from the ADF. And according to the people who run it, only a quarter of the police suspects are listed as ADF returnees. Here in eastern Uganda, we came across more wrinkles in the idea that ADF were involved in the killings. This is Mayuge, close to where the police told us they had dismantled an ADF cell responsible for a number of murders, including that of Sheikh Abdul Muwaya, the leader of Uganda's Shia Muslims. It was the day of Ashura, a day of mourning in the Shiite calendar. Sheikh Muwaya's son, Haji Bongo, has now become the leader. He invited us to join the procession. At the family house, Haji showed us where his father was struck down by 5 bullets from an AK-47 on the 24th of December last year. The bullet holes could still be seen. Later, at his father's grave, we spoke to Haji about the death of his father.
Do you genuinely believe ADF had a hand in the death of your father?
I cannot confidently comment, but my father has never, even in his joking conversations, he has never mentioned the word ADF from his mouth. He has never. He has never. He has never asked me a question about them. He has never made a comment against them. He has never made a comment for them. His business was his business.
According to the police report, the key suspects confessed to the murder. The police say these men were in regular contact with the ADF leader. The suspects then led the police to a location where the killers' guns had been buried, at this Muslim primary school in the neighboring district of Bujiri. We met a local who had been here the day the guns were found in March this year.
This is where they got the bullets. And the guns? And the guns were... 2 guns were recovered from here. The 3rd gun was recovered from here.
It was a kitchen, and then they're telling us that bullets were buried there.
With guns.
And guns were buried there, and you can actually see that this place was being used as a kitchen. You can still...
It seemed strange that the alleged killers would bury the guns in such a public and regularly used space, and especially in what appeared to be shallow holes.
Something is just not right.
And this is a man, you know, the owner of this school, who is in police custody, allegedly for terrorism. I would imagine a man involved in terrorism would have been wiser than this.
Perhaps the case against the ADF was looking a little shaky. Then official allegations took a bizarre turn earlier in the year when a wealthy Ugandan heart surgeon and Christian philanthropist based in Australia, Dr. Aggrey Chinji, was accused of arranging the killings and funding the ADF.
We got information that they actually wanted to attack police stations. And it was linked to Dr. Chinji's group. And in the center, they're recruiting ADF or former ADF. And I think his plan is to cause terror.
Dr. Chinji had been planning to run as an independent candidate in next year's presidential elections against President Yoweri Museveni, who is now entering his 30th year of increasingly authoritarian rule. We talked to him on Skype.
I don't have anything to do with the Muslim clerics.
I don't have anything to do with the ADF.
Dictator Museveni did this is that he was scared that I'm going to stand against him.
And therefore he slaps these ridiculous and absurd charges against me.
The government alleged that you have been transferring monies for terrorism acts.
These are all false premises to divert attention. So the onus is actually not on me. The onus is on the government to tell us the truth. Why are they lying that I've got connection with ADF? Why are they lying that money sent to the Western Union was responsible for this people when it actually isn't? And this money was used for good causes.
We spoke to Dr. Chinji's lawyer, Ladislaus Ruakafuzi. He told us about a man who has been arrested for his connection to Chinji's alleged terror group.
He's a very illiterate young man in Mbale town who knows very few words of English, like maybe sit down and stand up. But according to the police, this is a man who was trained in Australia in terrorism activities, and that is very highly trained and is very dangerous. And the police believes this kind of crap, and he's in jail for that purpose. It shows that really our police is not very serious.
There's a lot that doesn't add up about the official explanation for the killings. Muslim leaders wanted for being Israeli agents. A Christian surgeon in Australia accused of being an Islamist terrorist. An illiterate villager charged with being an internationally trained assassin. We went to meet a man who has a deep understanding of this state. General David Sejusa is one of the Army's most decorated officers. He was also an intelligence chief and advisor to the president until he fell out of favor for criticizing the government.
So the court system here doesn't work, the investigative system here doesn't work, and the government machinery itself doesn't work because it never explains to the people. It manages narrow affairs of the state. It is the regime's survival. So, first of all, I do not accept this idea, this sweeping idea that the killing of the sheikhs is the work of ADF. That's not necessary, that's nonsense. But it is very easy for government always to play the card of terrorism and ADF and Al-Shabaab. One, for their geopolitical relevance. It's very, very important. But secondly, it justifies the clampdown on the political opposition.
We asked both the President and the Inspector General of Police for an interview, but they were not available. It is difficult to say who is killing the sheikhs, but two things are clear. Infighting between Muslims may or may not be responsible for some murders, but it has also allowed enemies to exploit those divisions. And if those currently arrested for the crimes are to be believed, they have been framed by a government they say has a record of harassing Muslims. The government has failed to present a credible case against those it accuses of perpetrating the crimes, namely the terror group, the ADF. Perhaps it is all a political game to benefit from the West war on terror, but it has deadly and disturbing implications.